Imagine the sky opening up into a relentless, wind-whipped downpour that refuses to let up for days. The tracks you spent all yesterday following dissolve into mud, and the stream bordering your camp begins to climb its banks. You cannot hunt, and you cannot cross open ground without risking a sprained ankle on the slick rock. You are pinned down. The immediate threat is the cold. A soaked human loses heat 25 times faster than a dry one. In a 50-degree rainy season, a person without waterproof clothing can slip into hypothermia within a matter of hours. Survival is further squeezed by the geography. Flash floods often deposited sediment layers in the exact caves where people lived, sometimes making them uninhabitable for generations. Simultaneously, rain drives apex predators like leopards into those same dry rock overhangs, forcing humans into a cramped shared space with their own hunters. These combined pressures, the cold, the floods, and the predators, transformed a storm into a high-pressure vacuum. It trapped humans in confinement for days, posing the ultimate question of how to utilize that time to stay alive. The first priority is the fire. It must be pulled deeper into the cave and shielded with hides, because for most of prehistory, the ability to maintain an existing flame was far more common than the skill to conjure a new one from scratch. Relighting a fire in the damp and cold was never a certainty. For many groups, losing the flame meant losing the only thing standing between them and the dark. To prevent this, our ancestors carried dedicated gear. The 5,000-year-old Iceman found mummified in the Alps was discovered with a fire-starting kit on his belt, including tinder fungus, a biological match that could hold a smoldering spark for hours. Sourcing dry fuel in a storm required specialized knowledge. You hunt for branches shielded by the conifer canopy, or use birch bark, which contains a compound called betulin that allows it to burn even when soaked. This fire provided the heat and safety that allowed the group to transition from a state of panic to a state of active creation. Once the fire is stable, the manufacturing begins. With 15 to 30 people trapped indoors, the hours are spent on the slow, repetitive tasks that the hunt usually interrupts. Caves are loaded with the debris of these workshops. We find piles of tiny stone flakes, exactly where someone sat by firelight to shape tools. At Blombo's cave, researchers found 100,000-year-old abalone shells used as containers to grind and mix ochre pigment. Bone needles with tiny, precision-drilled eyes began appearing 61,000 years ago. These require extreme focus and hours of seated work, tasks designed for a long wait. In Germany, archaeologists found a 35,000-year-old ivory tool with 4 holes and spiral grooves, specifically built to twist raw plant fibers into cordage. This cordage changed the scope of human technology, allowing for the construction of snares, lashed tool handles, and sturdy shelters. The invention of these foundational technologies required the forced confinement that only a multi-day storm could provide. When every tool is sharpened and the rain continues to fall, the work shifts from the practical to the abstract. We see this in the world's oldest figurative art. These lions and rhinos were rendered with an anatomical precision that suggests the artist spent thousands of hours observing these creatures, recreating them from memory deep underground. This art is often found hundreds of meters from the cave entrance. Reaching these chambers required crawling through tight passages with a fat-burning lamp, a deliberate, time-intensive act that points to people with nowhere else to go. While some painted, the rest of the group gathered around the fire. This light created the original social network. Research by anthropologist Polly Wiesner shows how firelight changed human communication. While daytime talk centered on land disputes, over 80% of conversation after dark shifted to stories, myths, and rituals. These stories acted as survival data. Aboriginal Australian oral traditions have accurately recorded sea level changes from 7,000 years ago. That kind of multi-generational memory only survives if a group spends vast amounts of time sitting together, repeating the same information. The confinement of the storm forced a social density that turned scattered individuals into a cohesive culture with a shared survival manual. Then the storm finally breaks. Humans emerge into a landscape where dust has settled into soft mud, and rock basins hold fresh water. The conditions for the hunt are now ideal. The wet earth holds deep, crisp tracks that are easy to follow across the plateau. The rain triggers biological surges. Tubers become easier to dig, mushrooms bloom from the soft soil, and termites swarm by the thousands. The available calories shifted to the surface, and the group is uniquely prepared to exploit them. They step out with the sharpened tools, new cordage, and the coordinated plans they developed while trapped inside. While we often see rain as a pause in our lives, for our ancestors it functioned as a fast-forward button for human capability. Modern boredom is a luxury. For ancient humans, being pinned down by a storm forced an unprecedented level of resourcefulness. The foundations of our civilization, the tools, the stories, and the art, were built in the dark, waiting for the rain to stop.